let some people get in here. I'm going to tweet it out that we are going live. Actually, I'm going to retweet you, Justin. That is the way.
Is the way.
The blackout, Baylor. I see that on your Twitter here. You retweeted.
Well, I retweeted their. They put up a thing saying that tickets were going on sale, and I just reposted it. I didn't actually read the details. I don't know if that's just like for their season ticket holders or if that was like general admission tickets. So I just reposted it. So if Auburn fans were trying to get tickets, it says starting tomorrow at 9 a.m. for 48 hours only. Single game tickets for Baylor Auburn. First available time window. So I mean, it seems like if you're an Auburn fan, I don't know, and you wanted to go get tickets through that, you could pop on there and get tickets through them, I guess, if you wanted to. It's just single game tickets, so I guess anybody can go get them. So
yeah, I've done that before. We did that with Florida. I got through their thing, and I was in the Florida student section. So be careful. But all right, so we're live at lunch once again. Auburn Live at noon. We'll be taking questions, talking about the latest. This is just our new thing for the summer. The latest happenings.
Would that have been a better name for the show? Auburn Live Show at lunch?
Maybe. If you're worried about alliterations, maybe.
You just said that when you said lunch, I'm like, Auburn Live at lunch. Auburn Live at lunch. Dang it.
Why did I think it was called that? Why did I think it was called
Well, I don't know. I was like, we're going to do it at lunch. But I just thought calling it, at noon, putting the time in there, maybe that's probably better to have at noon because people know it's noon. Lunch could be like some people's lunch is 11:30.
Yeah,
so maybe not. Auburn Live at lunch probably would have. I
just know it was a good idea because when I was a state worker, my lunch, I just consumed as much Auburn content during lunch as I could.
Yeah,
and sometimes there wasn't a lot. So a live show at lunch, I would have eaten that up. No pun intended.
Yeah, get your mind off of work a little bit.
Yeah. So, do you have anything in particular you want to talk about today, Justin?
No, man. Let's just spitball. Obviously, we'll take any questions, roll them in. Not much going on. We can do. We can get into. I know there was some on three. I know On 3 did some football stories that we can get into in terms of order of finish for the SEC. We can get into that. ESPN predicts the order of finish for the college football season. We can definitely get into that and give our takes on that. And then we also have still got the way too early basketball rankings coming in. We can go through those, but man, like way too early almost doesn't even do it justice. I mean, I guess we kind of know the portal's sorted that we pretty much can look at rosters now, I guess, but man.
Let me ask you this.
What?
To start things off here, I got two things. Number one, do you have a face mask color preference for when Auburn goes to Baylor? Auburn's going to be in the white on white combo. What face mask do you like to go with that? Do you have a preference? Do you like? Are you a traditionalist, like navy all the way?
I'm kind of indifferent. They all look pretty decent. The all white's pretty awesome. All white's pretty awesome. Orange, they did orange on the road at A&M 2 years ago.
I loved it.
That was okay.
That was my pick.
Okay. I'm all white. I'm in the all white's really is really good look. I'm still waiting on white at home. But no, on the road, especially if they're going to do black, go all white, just like go the complete opposite. I'm down for
that. I like it. I picked the orange. That's probably my favorite with the white. I don't know. I like it. It pops. I like the orange face mask in general. I would be okay if they made the orange face mask the default instead of the navy. But I also have kind of a bad taste in my mouth about these face masks because Auburn hasn't done anything since they started.
Yeah, fair point there, Cole. Fair point. It's like new face mask loss. Let's try this one. Okay, can we win a big game in the freaking Have they won a game in the Oranges? Like they did Orange in the Iron Bowl, lost them. They did Orange. Didn't they do Orange against Oklahoma this past year? Lost that.
Yeah,
I
it
feel like
looked
they won
good.
an Orange against Arkansas at home. Parsons last year, maybe lost that. I don't even Arkansas at A&M lost that. Have they even won one
We need
in
to.
the?
I got the Auburn.
Actually, they did. They wore orange. Ole Miss, Harson's first year. If I remember correctly, wasn't that the first game? Ole Miss, Harson's first year. They wore orange and they beat Ole Miss like right off the bat. But I don't know that they've won one in it since.
Yeah, and if you're anything like me, Justin, and you're, I get made fun of for being like an old soul or whatever. I don't really get into this new age of drip. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where you gotta look so good. To me, there's nothing dumber than when you have all this drip on and they get waxed. You just look stupid. It looks so dumb to me. Like a DB that's got his jersey tucked up. He's got wristbands and stuff everywhere, and then he gets burnt. You look dumb, man. You just look dumb.
It's the danger of hyping up a new jersey or a new face mask and then losing.
Yeah, it's hard to watch, almost for me.
All right, you want to get into ESPN's projected order of finish?
Yes, let's do it.
All right,
and we do have some questions coming in too.
Yeah. I'm gonna give a rundown of where they are, and then let's dissect it. So this is ESPN. I would assume they're going off of their FPI, their Football Power Index. This is their predicted order of finish. You stop me if something just is like alarming. Otherwise, I'll just kind of go through and we can chat. Texas number one.
Okay, you're going.
Texas number one, 34% chance of winning the league. Georgia number two, 27% chance of winning the league. Alabama 3, 17% chance of winning the league.
Based on their history. What is it mostly based on again? This FPI?
Well, it's their FPI metric, which is used to measure the strength of the team. And then win the conference. And then so it's basically the FPI. It's just they've already done their FPI of each team, so they've sort of developed a rating on how strong they think each team will be. And then once they do that, they can obviously look at the schedules and they can have what they think is a predicted order of finish. So Texas number one at 34%, Georgia number two at 27% chance of winning the league, Bama at 3 at 17% chance of winning the league. Those three seem to be, well, not seem to be. I think we would all agree. Those are the three favorites. Texas A&M at 4.
Let me stop you there real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so Georgia and Bama being in the top 5 has been the safest bet you can make as an analyst the past
nationally.
Yeah, the past 10 years. If you're doing preseason, and I know it's FPI, it's a little different, but putting them in the top 5 is the safest bet you can make, right? Is there a safer bet?
Because they've got the best talent. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. I mean,
is it still the safest bet to put Alabama in the top
5? I mean, they're not quite. I mean, if you take Saban out of the equation, you certainly have to look at them a little bit differently. They're still loaded with talent, but you could always sort of bank Saban plus the talent. I mean, come on, Saban gone, but they do have the talent. I think you got to. Maybe there's been times where you didn't even need to take a hard look at Alabama, to be honest. You were just like, do they have a quarterback coming back? Okay, they're number 2. I mean, you didn't need to evaluate them that hard to know they're at 1 or 2, right? Now, given what happened last year, maybe you look at them just a little bit more critically. Make sure you're not giving them too much grace. But they're still stockpiled with talent.
Still a safe bet, but not as safe as it once was, is the way I see it.
Yeah, not quite. Not where you could just be like, let's just Alabama 1. Who's next?
No.
Not there, you know.
Yeah.
A&M at 4. So here's where you get those 3 teams. A&M at 4, they give them a 4% chance. So it's basically Texas, Georgia, Bama are far and away the favorites to win the league. Texas A&M's projected to finish 4th in the league, and they're given a 4% chance to win the league. So it's if anybody other than Texas, Georgia, or Alabama win the league, according to ESPN's FPI, it would be a massive shock. Tennessee at 5, LSU at 6, Ole Miss at 7, Auburn at 8, South Carolina at 9, Oklahoma at 10, Florida at 11, Missouri at 12, Arkansas at 13, Kentucky 14, Vandy 15, Mississippi State 16. Let's start with Auburn. High or low? Being at 8. Predicted to finish 8th in the league. And what do you think that record would be conference-wise if they do finish 8th? What do you think that is? And do you think they're giving them too much? I mean, they've got them ahead of South Carolina, who returns Lenora Sellers. They've got them ahead of Florida, who returns DJ Lagway and some talent. You got them ahead of Oklahoma, who got John Mateer, and certainly is a talented football team. I mean, you could make the argument Lenora Sellers, John Mateer, DJ Lagway, Jackson Arnold. If you were just trying to maybe give an edge to a team based on a quarterback, I feel like those 4 are very, very close. I mean, you almost have tiers in the SEC right now, and you could say the first 3 are a tier: Texas, Georgia, Bama, and then you could really say A&M. You could really say A&M, Tennessee, LSU, and Ole Miss are kind of a tier. I mean, they're probably not a massive difference between those. I mean, at any given Saturday, then you probably could get into Auburn, Carolina, Florida, and Oklahoma kind of being a tier. And then you could probably say Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy, Mississippi State, a bottom tier.
Yeah, if you're talking in tiers, I almost see it in 3 tiers. So you have the ones that are separated, like Texas, Alabama, Georgia. Who A&M? They have 4.
Yeah, I don't think you can put Auburn with A&M or LSU. LSU is probably LSU is going to have a very good roster, and a returning quarterback. That might be a team that is being slept on at 6th.
Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like Georgia, Alabama, and Texas are in a league, in a different tier league than the rest.
Yes.
So I would put them alone in that. The question what you're saying is you split the next tier, but I'm almost looking at it.
I would have 4 tiers.
There's one big tier in the middle, and I think Auburn's at the bottom end of it, but in it, talent-wise, which is why they're ahead of a South Carolina who proved to be better than Auburn, proved to be coached better than Auburn, was in games like Alabama, had a chance to win that one. Because Auburn's roster is really, from the standpoint of what they're looking at from an outside standpoint, I mean, you know how outsiders are looking at Auburn right now. They're going, that roster looks good. It looks like it can compete. That's what outsiders say. Insider, like us, people who are in the chat right now, people on the corner, they're going, there ain't no way. It's been too long. We're just not there. There's some positive people, but I would say at least 80% are not, and expecting the worst so they don't get, heartbroken. But outsiders look at Auburn and go, yeah, I just don't see many problems here. It looks pretty good. They should have a good record. So 8 is almost perfect, because it's like, I think they're going to be good, but still a little bit further back. Some of these other teams is a safe bet, but 8's a little higher than maybe I expected. I was thinking more 9, 10.
Yeah, and I think I saw there was another one that came out the other day. It was a projected order finish, and Auburn was like 11. I mean, so there's certainly some difference of opinion on where you might put Auburn. Auburn has always been, even under Brian Harsin, like even go back to 22, the FPI, the ESPN, which is what this is more of a, obviously not sort of, it's a metric. It's a strength of a team and strength of the schedule. Auburn's always been a little bit higher in that FPI than maybe just what your opinion of them would be. So even last year, like at times they would creep up in the FPI, maybe a little higher than what you thought. Oh, I know what it was. Kelly Ford. Do you follow Kelly Ford on Twitter? Does a lot of good stuff with power ratings.
Yeah, I've seen it. I don't.
Yeah, he does a good job. And so his came out. He did his top, whatever it was. It was like top 75 teams. Auburn was, can't remember where they were nationally, but if you added up the SEC teams, they were 11. They were behind South Carolina. They were behind Oklahoma, maybe even behind Florida, but they were like 11th, but not super far off to where those other teams are, but they were 11th. So I'm like, I think 8th is, you take 8. I mean, if you finish 8th in the league, you're certainly no worse than 4-4. I think you're probably 5-3. I mean, obviously there's 7 teams ahead of you. So 5-3 certainly. I don't know that guarantees. I mean, you could be 4-4 in the league and finish 8th, I guess, but it would give you a really good shot. I would think it being 5-3, but you could be 8, 9, 10. I mean, it really is. I think obviously Auburn plays Oklahoma, doesn't play Florida, doesn't play South Carolina.
I think 5-3 is probably what you're looking at if they're 8th, because being in that's half. I mean, 16 teams. That's the middle of the road technically, but if you're in the middle of the road to upper tier or upper half SEC, you're probably good, right?
You're good.
Or I will say you're better than you have been if you're Auburn. That's better.
Well, that's for
I'm not
sure.
saying it's a lot better, but it's better, you know.
I mean, let's not forget when we talk about Auburn, like, not to just sort of remind you, but it's, I mean, here's Auburn's conference records starting last year and going backwards. And this is what I talk about when people talk about what Auburn's record should be overall, right? We always get caught up in like win 8, win 9, whatever. Yeah, that's important. But conference record is, I would almost start there before I even said like what should Auburn be overall. I'd almost say what should Auburn be in the league, because that's the most important thing. Where are you in the league? Where can you finish in the league? And that's going to determine, ultimately, that's going to determine your shot at making a playoff. Where are you amongst the rest of the SEC? Winning, So anyway, here's their conference records: 2-6, 3-5, 2-6, 3-5. Auburn hasn't been at least even 500 in 4 years. They went 6-4 2020. That was COVID. Let's just kind of not. That was a different schedule. Honestly, 6-4 in a 10-game schedule is not bad. But that team had issues. So that was COVID. 5-3, 3-5, 7-1, 5-3, and then going back to even 2015 where they finished 2-6. But let's just say since the run of 13-14 where you went 7-1. By the way, that 14 team going 4-4 in the league, man, they underachieved. I mean, you had Nick Marshall back, Sammy Coates back, Duke Williams back. That team at one point went on the road and beat Ole Miss and was ranked, 3rd in the country. Yeah. And they just fell apart at the end of the year to finish 4-4, lose the bowl game to Melvin Gordon in Wisconsin. That team should not have been 4-4. But I'll
never forget the A&M game where Nick Marshall fumbled the snap. That's when I felt all hope was lost. But it really, I mean, you compare that to now, it's like, shoot, people would kill to have a season like 2014 right now.
Yeah, you screwed that game up. You lost, you went to Georgia and lost, and you went to Bama and lost an absolute shootout. But the A&M game hurt them. They should have been 5-3, and they should have been 9 wins. And if you don't mess up the bowl game, that team should have won 10. But since the 13-14 run of really good talent and Nick Marshall, in taking away COVID, let's not count COVID just because that's 10 games. Since the run of 13-14, they've had 3 winning records in the league. 3. 3. In the last 11 years, take away COVID. So in the last 10 years, 3 winning records in the league. Like, that's the reality. That's the reality. And I love Auburn fans, and they're optimistic. And it's like, this is the year. This is the year. It's always an optimism. But it's getting to the point now where you almost have to stop and look back and go, okay, like, this has been like a decade of mediocre football, just absolute mediocrity.
Yeah.
3 conference winning seasons in 11. So, a lot to build on. But to go off kind of what you said on where you finish, and it kind of mirrors something Hugh Freeze said recently about how many teams from the SEC should get in the playoff, or like what should get you. Should 8-4 in the league? If you go 8-4 and you play in the SEC, should you be in the playoff conversation? Or I think that depends. I think it's less about 8-4. It's probably more about being 5-3. If you're 5-3 in the SEC and you play a really hard SEC schedule, you probably should be in the discussion for the playoff. If you're 5-3, I would agree with that.
Well, when people talk about playoff picture, you don't realize that you're 8-4 at the end, like at the end when they're making the decision. But being in the playoff picture is a lot easier to do during the season. I mean, like Texas A&M, when they came into Jordan-Hare last year, they were in the playoff picture with where they were. If they'd have beat Auburn that night, pretty good chance. Now they went and lost to Texas.
Yeah, you got to win out.
But the Auburn loss ended it for them. But
For
they
sure.
were, before that game, they were being talked about as a fringe playoff team.
Yeah.
You just want Auburn to get back in that league, at least first, right now. That's where I'm at. This year, you have to get back into that.
Yeah, I'm reading some of the comments. Rebecca Walls says, might be an unpopular opinion, but after the past several seasons, I'd be happy with a league finish within the top 10. That is a perfect example of the expectation question. So everything I just said about what Auburn's done the last decade, right? Given what I just said, her opinion's reasonable. Like, given the lack of success, you'd go, gosh, if we just went 4-4 in the league, they haven't had a winning season in the league in 5 years. It's been 4 straight losing. So 4-4 would be somewhat of a breakthrough. However, that's not the expectation for the Auburn program as a whole. And that's not the expectation for the majority of Auburn fans. I mean, it's just not. Auburn is a historically top 15 program in college football history. They have played in 2 national championships in the last 15 years. That's, granted, now those 2 are like basically at the beginning of that 15-year stretch, 10 and 13. It's basically been a decade of mediocrity. So I don't even know if you can. It's hard to sort of walk around and claim those 2 as even recent at this point. I mean, the last decade, it's just not been, and Auburn and football's changed. So it's kind of getting to the point now where you really can't even be like, Auburn's played in a championship like twice in the last 15 years. Yeah, that feels like a long time ago at this point. But it goes into the expectation question of, are you okay with her opinion of, hey, 4-4 is a step up, and be happy with that? Or like, do you feel, I guess the question is, do you feel like expectations have slid with the fans to the point now where it's like, hey, 8-4, man, and we're throwing a party? And that's not Auburn football. It's just not. 8-4 would get you on the hot seat 10, 15, 20 years ago.
That's not the gauge I'm getting.
Yeah. Well,
it's not. I think what Rebecca said is fine. Like, that's okay. I think that's an acceptable thing for this coming year, for where you're at, for the rebuild, for everything, for year 3 of Freeze.
If they finish 9th in the league 3 years in,
if you're 500 in the SEC,
if 4-4 puts you, if you're 9th, but so it's not really about 9th. It's about 4-4. If they're 3-5, if they're 3-5 and that finishes 9th, who cares if you're 9th? Who cares if you're 7th? If you're 3-5, why is that something to brag about?
I think that's acceptable. What 4-4 or 500, right? But I don't think you're delusional if you expect more than that. And the reason is because there's reason to believe Auburn can be a lot better than that based on what you just watched last year and how many games could have gone Auburn's way in the fourth quarter that are winnable. And you don't have to guess. We know things are better, are in a better situation than they were. And if that's the case, and it was just 1 or 2 plays that kept you from being a 500 or over 500 in the SEC, what stops you now? So that's where, I'm not a pitchfork kind of guy. I like to sit back and look at things and analyze. But if Auburn is what it was again, if it looks eerily similar to last season by about midseason this year, I'm not grabbing a pitchfork, but I'm thinking about it. I'm going, that's I can't, something's not right here. And talent's not the issue. I don't think quarterback will be a hindrance. I think it'll be at least good enough to get you back to where you were, and probably better than that.
It better not be probably.
Well, I'm being generous here, but like I said, you start looking like it did again. Same thing. If it's you plug in better talent and it still looks the same, then you kind of have more of an answer. Where we're not questioning what's the problem here. We're going, okay. I think there might be a problem at the top.
James says, my opinion on the season is win the 4 non-conference, which, by the way, I think I saw something the other day where I think Bill Steele picked Baylor to win the Big 12. So, like, just so we're aware of what you're walking into. I mean, Baylor's not picked to win the national championship or anything, but this is, I mean, you're game 1, you're playing a team that could, some people think could win the Big 12. He thinks win all 4 non-conference, win 1 of Oklahoma A&M, which both those are on the road, win 1 of Bama, Georgia, both those at home, and then beat Kentucky, beat Vandy, beat Arkansas, and beat Missouri, and you're 10-2. I'm with you on Kentucky, Vandy, Arkansas, and Missouri. I mean, all those teams, according to the FPI, are much worse than you. Your rosters are better than theirs. Like I don't care road or away. It's the discussion we had a couple weeks ago. If you think your goal, which Hugh Freeze says we're going to get to this level, this elite level, losing to Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, or Missouri is unacceptable. If you're an elite team, it just is, especially this year. Yeah. So I would agree with you. Those 4, like you got to take steps and beat those teams. Bama, Georgia, gosh, winning one of those, you're talking about 2 teams that could win a national championship. It's just like, would you love to win one? Yes. It's hard to put an expectation on games of that caliber. Because it's just hard to be like, they got to win one, or like that's an expectation. I don't think Auburn's there yet to where I would say, if you don't beat Bama, that's disappointing, But maybe some people could say at home, maybe that's the case, and then beat Oklahoma or A&M. Obviously, both those on the road. A&M's picked to finish 4th. I mean, that'd be tough. But that's his. I mean, where does he fall in the expectation ladder of 10 wins? Is that the minority of people that expect 10 wins, or do we think there are more people that think they should win 9 or 10 than we're giving credit for?
No, I think that's probably close to 50%. They believe that. Almost half. Yeah, I think so. And the transfer portal has made it where your expectations are a little more because of what you can do now for your roster and turn it over in a year. So that's part of it, I think. And then the other part is just the pride that Auburn fans have, and they know that we don't need this grace period. We need to get it right today. I think that's how a lot of Auburn fans think, and I don't think it's wrong at all. I think that's fine. I do believe in seeing out a tenure and knowing where it started. I think that's important. I think Hugh Freeze's tenure starts at a bad place. I think it's still at a not good place. This is your chance to get it back on track. And I think a lot of people understand. And when it actually gets here, instead of when we're not just in freaking talking season, eventually that will not be the case. We'll actually be in the season. I think there'll be a little bit more understanding if Auburn can get a win like Baylor and then hit the ground running after that. It's tough. It's actually not a great start for the circumstance. It's pretty pressure filled. I can just the pressure is just radiating off of that game, in my opinion. I just feel it. Game? Yeah, gosh. Good gracious, there's a lot of pressure. Does it feel like, do you remember the opener for 2018 was Washington? Do you remember that one?
I was there.
How much pressure did you feel before that? Did it feel like this?
No, I mean, because 17, yes, 17 ended terribly where you got beat by Georgia. Carry-on was hurt. Okay. And then embarrassing loss to Central Florida. I get Central Florida was good, but like you got physically beat. You got beat. That wasn't a fluke. That was you got beat by them. That was pretty embarrassing. But you were coming off a really good year, 17. That team was very, very good. So I didn't feel like there was pressure. I don't know that there like a first game, and I'm trying to think back of the of where you kind of had two mediocre years and you opened the season with a game like this. I don't really.
Well,
I mean, Oregon 18 was a so-so year, but there wasn't really pressure against Oregon because you were starting Bo Nix as a freshman, so there wasn't like there's probably a little bit of we're starting a freshman. We don't know what to expect from Bo Nix, so there's not necessarily pressure in that game to win because I think there was a lot of people going, we're starting a true freshman. I don't know if we'll win or not. And winning was almost great.
Well, that's the point I was getting at. Actually, might be an unpopular opinion. I do have some of those, but Gus winning that Washington game, Gus winning the Oregon game, I think bought him a lot of grace with the Auburn fan base because we had this conversation the other night, Justin. I did not think the Gus Malzahn tenure was heading in the right direction at the end. That's why Auburn pulled on it. I still believe that was the right call. I thought it was heading in a bad direction.
From when?
It just went downhill from 2017. 2019 was a good season. You beat Alabama, but you weren't as good as you maybe could have been. But again, you beat Oregon to open the year with a freshman quarterback. Nobody was really expecting them to do that. Buys you a lot of grace for when you do drop one you're not supposed to drop later in the year. Hugh Freeze has not won a game that's bought him any grace yet. Not one. A&M, not enough, in my opinion.
Well, he's lost too many. A&M last year was a good win, a really good win.
It was.
But it's not balanced out because he's got too many losses the other direction. New Mexico State, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri on the road. You had that one. Vanderbilt last year. He's got too many. The first year he really didn't. I mean, the first year New Mexico State was glaring. But you didn't, right? That year you beat Arkansas on the road. You beat Vanderbilt on the road. Who else? Oklahoma, you didn't play them. What was the year before? Kentucky? Who am I thinking about? His first year, they beat Vandy on the road. They beat Arkansas on the road. Did they beat Missouri at home?
Freeze's first year?
Yeah.
Let's see. That'd be what, 2022, 23?
23. Anyway, the New Mexico State was the loss that year that was just disgusting.
Yeah, it was bad.
Last year, though, he tacked a few more of those on. Last year, you had Cal, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Vandy, all at home, man.
I take it back. I think the game that got him maybe a little bit of grace the first year was the win on the road at Cal. I think that was a pretty nice win for a first-year head coach. Weird game altogether. Weird time. All that was weird. Ugly. Got the win, though, to where Auburn fans were going, okay, you can get a win in a kind of weird situation. That's good. A little bit of grace there. You beat UMass to open the year. You beat Cal on the road. Then you beat Samford. You lost 27-10 at A&M in an ugly game where you couldn't get the offense going at all. No. Then you lose 27-20 at home to Georgia in a very close game. Super close. If Brock Bowers were not in that game, Auburn wins it.
See, I think those two games are I think those are the two games that people treated like wins. They treated the Georgia and Alabama games his first year like wins because they were like, oh, first year, we don't have the talent. We almost beat. That was absolutely the narrative coming off of year one. New Mexico State was terrible. That was embarrassing, but he also turned around and followed that up with should have beaten Alabama. So the narrative was, look at what he did in year one. Almost beat Georgia, almost beat Alabama, and he doesn't even have the talent. It's year one. Oh, we're good. We're good. We're in the right direction. Hugh Freeze can coach. He's a ball coach. those were treated like wins in terms of perception. He lost all of that goodwill last year when you lost to Cal, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt all at home. You could toss Missouri was better than you. You had them beat, though. You could toss that in. You beat Kentucky. But the 4 ones you lost at home, that threw away. You could beat A&M. That didn't come close to balancing out losing those other 4 home games to teams that you're absolutely as good as. Like those 4 last year, I thought erased a lot of the goodwill. So he's had, to me, more lackluster performances than good performances. It's not quite balanced out.
But then you win back goodwill once again with your recruiting, and transfer portal was good, recruiting was good, all that was good. And not only that, I think the recruiting is showing up on the field, whereas your young players, the guys that he's bringing into the program, are the ones doing really good things. Obviously, quarterback was the one part that everybody wishes was different. And that could be the thing that flips the switch, obviously. They lost to Georgia real close, had a head-scratching loss to LSU at 48-18 in Baton Rouge.
Dude, I was there. That was an absolute beatdown.
And then a close one to Ole Miss, which was in Auburn. I don't really remember that game that much.
Yeah, they were in it. That was 28-14.
28-21.
So, yeah, it was pretty close. Ole Miss, I think, extended it to 28-14, and then I think Auburn made it 28-21. Auburn's offense was never going to win that game, though. That was the game I remember walking away going, I felt like Lane Kiffin coached that game knowing they weren't scoring. They weren't going to score enough to beat us. And so there's some weird stuff from them on offense I thought was a little conservative, but that was not a great performance by Auburn, even though the score was 1.
Get on a win streak. Beat Mississippi State 27-13. Beat Vandy 31-15. And then you go to Arkansas and win 48-10. And then the New Mexico nowhere. You're like, what?
Gross.
What in the world? This doesn't even feel real. I mean, they were never close. It was a blowout, 31-10.
Oh, they got it was one of the most embarrassing. Now, granted, New Mexico State, I think, won 10 games, won their league. That was actually a good team, but it shouldn't matter roster wise.
No,
if you're a 500 team in the SEC, your roster should be to the point where even a 10-win New Mexico State, you got to handle them. They got pushed around, they got out schemed. One of the more embarrassing losses that you're going to find for Auburn.
Yep.
Because of the way it happened.
27-24 to Bama.
Yeah, he gave that game away.
Gave it away. Had it. And then Maryland. They lost to Maryland 31-13 in the bowl.
Beat down. Terrible, terrible performance.
So an up and down year the first year, hit some expectations and went below others. Super strange. And it only got stranger in the next year. So that's where you're like, if you're keeping up with the program, you're going, there's no way. We don't trust this. It's too weird. There's too much bad going on. So, again, back to where we started with this. I get number 8 because the roster looks so good at this point. It's not the best roster in the SEC by any means. It's moving up into the tiers, though, that it was not in before Hugh Freeze took over. 100%. That is true. That is true for any outsider looking at this. So I think a lot of people have decided, I'm just not going to pay attention to that. Hugh Freeze has won before. He's got a good roster. I think this is it. I think that's what most outsiders, where they're at right now.
Yeah.
By the way, we're talking about weird stuff. How about this? Jeremiah Wright has been, what he calls is his quote, at Auburn for 4 different coaches. He's counting Cadillac in that. Gus, Harsin, Cadillac, Freeze. He went through COVID at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
Quarantines, getting tested every day. Torn ACL. Position changed 3 times. What a crazy career that is.
That is crazy. That's a lot.
I'm looking at this Chris Lowe article. Did you see this, Justin? Where he talked to Freeze and talked to Jeremiah Wright and a couple people. where it's just a couple things in here were interesting, I thought.
What was the gist of the story? It's
It was
all
all
coming
over.
around.
It was all over the place. There was like a lot of different topics he was trying to hit in it. It looks like he wanted to get Jeremiah Wright's take on things and how it is now, and he kind of put Freeze on the spot about the quarterback position and the offense, and his response to that was like, I feel bad for Peyton because he took the brunt of the deal so often.
What a statement to make in June of 2025.
I know. Basically, he was saying the situation now, he's looking at Cam Coleman, he's looking at Malcolm Simmons, and Perry Thompson, he mentioned, that have come from where they were as freshmen, knowing what to do, not making these mental mistakes in games. He's saying the situation for Jackson Arnold is set up really nicely.
I agree.
So, as opposed to what it was for the last quarterback. So his was more of, it wasn't a quarterback issue as much as it was a situation problem. He was in a bad situation and he didn't overcome it all the time. Whereas
who's he didn't overcome
Peyton Thorne. Whereas Jackson Arnold's not going to be in that situation as much. He should have an easier ride.
Oh.
That was the gist of that part of the article.
So he was sort of painting Peyton as a little bit of a victim of circumstances.
Yeah. That's how it reads to me. The brunt of that was the quote. Hang on, let's see if I can find it. He was getting the brunt of the. I can't find it now, but I remember the word brunt being used. Brunt of the issues. He said we did. He said we did a lot of things to get you beat, and yet we still averaged nearly 7 yards per play on offense. Only 4 other power conference teams averaged more. Those 4 teams, Ole Miss, Ohio State, Miami, and Louisville, were a combined 43-12. And Freeze said, and then there was us.
True. Very true. I mean, there's things you can point to last year, absolutely, and Freeze has done a good job of. There are things you can point to make the case that Auburn's going to be a lot better. For sure. You can look at the stats and go, how did we average what we average yard-wise, and how did we but then we, turnovers pretty much negated all the good things that they were doing, and some lack of execution on third downs and making plays when it matters. You can do whatever you want between the 20s. That's why we always talk about red zone. That's why red zone efficiency is so important, because between the 20s, cool. But then if you don't score, then it's all for naught. So yeah, there's certainly some things you can look at that made last season odd. But again, I think it's just, I totally understand the argument of look at our yards per play. Look how close we were. Look at the 4 games we could have won, right? He would say we could have won or should have won. I get it. But you lost them. But you did. There were turnovers, but there were third down mistakes. So I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just more of sit back and we'll see. We'll see if all of that was sort of an aberration and it was a weird year and you had some circumstances and Peyton wasn't a good fit and it was what it was, and it's going to be fixed this year, or it won't. Like we'll have a better determination on some of those things. And so I get the argument that Freeze is making to build optimism. I get it totally, but you can take the exact same stats and make the argument the other way. So it depends on what you want to do. Yeah.
But that's where we're at now. And that's why I love this season so much. I'm very excited about this season, whereas some people are looking at it and going, ugh, it's just torture. I just want Auburn to be good so bad. Oh. My perspective is we're going to know what the problem is after this season. We don't have to question it anymore. We're going to know. If they cannot get it done with this roster, well, then we know what the problem is. I hate to be that way. I don't want to put more pressure on a pressure-filled situation. That's not my – I don't want that to be my role.
Just load up the pressure, Cole.
No, I don't. I don't like that. I don't like doing that.
I think offensively, you're right. I mean, offensively, like the defense, we don't like – offensively, you're right. There's a lot of questions that will be answered on if it's a clean operation and things look smoothly. We could probably take a step back and go, okay, think this is further evidence that Peyton wasn't the best fit. This is a better fit. Tack on another talented receiver, 2 better tackles on the offensive line, and it was just a talent thing, or it was just an efficiency thing. We could know a little bit more there.
Even if the defense takes just a tiny step back, if the offense takes a step forward,
a massive step forward,
I don't think it has to be a massive step forward.
What did they finish last year? They got to take – well –
I don't think it has to be a crazy step forward. It just needs to be a step forward. Then you finish the games you didn't finish last year.
But that's a big step. Like finishing is everything. I mean, not turning the ball over is like.
But
that's where I get into the debate of when Freeze says if we just wouldn't have turned it over. I hear you. If we just wouldn't have turned it over, I get it. But you did it 4 times.
This is why I love what he said here. This is why I like it. Not necessarily that he said it, just that it's out there now.
Yeah.
Well, I found it. Let me just read this part to you. Chris Lowe said one of the most improved groups on the team should be the receiving core. And Freeze said that Peyton Thorne unfairly took the brunt of the deal last season over the Tigers' struggles on offense. All right. Chris Lowe adds his opinion here. He's like, to be fair, scoring points has been a problem in both of Freeze's seasons at Auburn. The Tigers have scored 21 or fewer points in 10 of his 16 SEC games. By comparison, when Freeze had things rolling at Ole Miss, 2014 and 2015, the Rebels scored more than 30 points in 9 of their SEC games. And then the quote from Freeze where he says, there were times last year when Peyton was ready to pull the trigger on something that should have been there. And we may have just been a little young at receiver and didn't quite run the depth of the route or have the right route. He said, the difference I see right now in Malcolm Simmons, Perry Thompson, and Cam Coleman is monumental. They understand the game. They understand the system. I think Jackson's going to be the beneficiary of that.
So Freeze is saying what we said. I know you and I, because I don't consume everybody's content. Freeze is saying what we said literally in the middle of last year to all the people screaming and kicking and stomping their feet and acting like babies about Peyton Thorne that wanted to blame all of the world's problems on Peyton Thorne. And we said, listen, yes, there are things Peyton can do better, but like literally we talked about there are guys running the wrong routes. There are guys not running the right depth. There are a lot. There are blocking miscommunication issues. There are a bunch of stuff going on that's creating this. It is just not all Peyton Thorne. I mean, we screamed this for months to whoever would listen. And now in June of 2025, we get an honest assessment from Freeze going, it wasn't all Peyton. He got too much of the brunt. We had other issues going on. So we're validated. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I know. That's why I loved it. That's number one why I loved it. Number two, and by the way, Peyton, there were things he did that he would sit here and probably tell you need to do better. Okay.
Sure. Which is the whole point. We never said Peyton was unflappable. We never said that. The problem is people couldn't have 2 thoughts in their mind at the same time. They were like, either you had to hate him and blame everything on him, or you are saying Peyton's awesome. No, we're not saying that. We're saying Peyton can be better, but you cannot blame everything on him. We're having 2 thoughts at the same time, and everybody that wanted to blame Peyton just wanted to just have the one thought. They weren't capable of going, 2 things could be true.
Back to your point of finishing. This is why I love that this is out there now. Not just us talking on a show, but the actual coach who's there every day at practice and sees it says this. To your point on finishing, Auburn did finish in the A&M game later in the year. They figured it out. They got better. And it was Peyton that did it, by the way, at quarterback, on a last-minute drive that had been horrendous in games like the Cal game, Oklahoma game. I'm sure Missouri, if I had to go back. It didn't look like that in the Texas A&M game. Because why? The situation was better. There's credence to what he's saying because they improved in the back half of the season and got some things figured out with the young guys, with the offensive line and pass protection. They figured some things out and got better exponentially and beat a team that was on a track to have a chance at the playoffs. Just with a couple tweaks. Now, that part, knowing that, for me, puts more pressure on this current team because I know you're capable of it. But I love it because when you get to this season, I don't have to question anything anymore. If Auburn's better, I know the coaching's been there and the talent was a big problem. If Auburn's not better, talent was never the issue. It's a coaching thing. And you need to start considering what maybe next, that if it doesn't look any better.
Yeah, the A&M was weird. The other argument to that game would be, technically they finished in overtime. They did not finish in the second half. They got scored 24-10 in the second half of that game to go into overtime. They had a 2-touchdown lead at halftime, and they held on. Defense offense hit the grind, and Texas A&M made some plays in the game. But in the end, they have one pick, no fumbles lost, so one turnover. That certainly is where you can compete. Gave up too many yards that game, but
sure.
Yeah.
Switching gears real quick, and then I know we need to take some questions because we got a few.
Awesome.
CBS Sports put out a 2026 mock draft. Did you see this? Has 3 Auburn players in the first round.
What?
For next year. So at pick number 12 overall, they've got Xavier Chaplin.
We from the second he was signed, I thought it's certainly an NFL tackle. That's probably the first time I've seen him first round.
Yeah, I was going to say NFL, yes. First round tackle. I don't know about that.
That would be surprising. I haven't heard. Of course, he didn't go through some of the spring. I don't know if he's that. He's got the build. I guess there's some stuff to like about him. But if you're first round tackle, you're an All-American. You're a monster.
Yeah. If you want to get really deep into it, I was watching Cole Kublik talk about him the other day, and he kind of baits guys into playing into his hands. And this is pretty technical, but he said he's going to have a lot more trouble doing that on the SEC level. You can't bait guys; they're too good. I don't know. I'd have to show you on film what that means, what he's doing, because he's so wide. He's a wide person, and what he can do is influence them to go outside, which he would turn and run the guy. Meaning he turns his shoulders to the sideline too quickly.
Yeah.
If you do that in the SEC, they're going to run right through you.
Yeah.
Is what Kublik's saying. He's probably right about that. I'm sure, that'll
be
part of
probably nationally an underrated addition to this Auburn team that people are probably it's a lot of Eric Singleton and a lot of Jackson Arnold, and probably an underrated nationally is, hey, they added a tackle that's going to get drafted in the first couple rounds.
So he's at number 12 on this mock draft. That's really high. Number 28, they have Keldrick Falk. That makes sense.
28. Listen, mock drafts, you get into needs, you get into team needs and stuff. But if Keldrick Falk is the 28th player, I think Keldrick Falk's a top 15 player. If Keldrick Falk builds on the last 2 years on this year, and isn't a top 15 pick, I'm not a scout. I don't know team needs, but Keldrick Falk could play defensive end. He could play interior. Keldrick Falk is versatile. He's a top 15. If he has another good year, that dude's a top 15 pick.
On this list, so 28. As far as edges go, TJ Parker from Clemson, he's number 3 on this one.
That's fine.
Let's see. Is there another one? LT Overton from Alabama is number 13. So they have him ahead. I think. Is Tyreek Sapp from Florida, is he an edge or a linebacker? Not sure.
I don't know. I just think
Mason Thomas from Oklahoma, that guy might be the best in the SEC. He's ridiculous. He's number 23, so I agree with that. And then Falk. So technically fourth edge taken by this.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Okay. And then number 30 is Eric Singleton. So slips into the first round for Eric Singleton.
Yeah, I'm going to say that mock draft. I'm going to say that sounds like all of that just sounds completely random. I mean, who knows? Falk is a first rounder. Singleton can be because he's of his speed. Chaplin, let's see what he does against the SEC. But if your point is, and look, if you toss in Connor Lewis as second round ish type pick, could slip to the third. Maybe, center is always a weird position where people might go, people might get into the weeds on like what you need to be a center. And I don't know where Connor Lewis stacks up, but like he's really good. So you're looking at least 4 dudes and potentially in the first 2 rounds. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know when the last time. So if you're just talking about talent, you got Cam Coleman sitting over there who the next year will be a top 2 round pick, and maybe a DB, maybe something like Jay Crawford's a high pick. I mean, there's no question you've got more talent than you've had. No, there's no question. You're looking at this going in the next 3 years. In the next 3 years, you got, what do you think? The next 3 years, you got 15 draft picks probably on there. Just guessing.
I think so. Yeah, I think they're to that point, which puts them up a tier in the SEC from where they were even last year. You want to hit a couple questions?
Yeah,
Justin?
go for it. Toss them in.
All right, here we go. Rebecca Walls, Becca for AU on the board. Great poster. Who is a player that you think had a really great spring but did not get talked about enough? Tell you,
Horatio Fields.
That's a good pick. You know who got talked about a lot, at least with me, was Xavier Atkins. I barely hear about him anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a reason for that. I mean, I expect him to play. It's a weird deal because he didn't play at all at LSU, but he was a freshman and a blue chip freshman at that.
Yeah, he's got the athletic ability, all that.
Oh, yeah. He looks like a pretty good replacement for Asante, like a similar style he plays with. Fast. Asante was pretty good, actually.
Unless you asked him to cover. Yeah. He's bad.
Yeah,
He's bad in coverage.
Blitz specialist, though?
Yeah.
Pretty
instinctual good. Player. Yeah, good blitzer. Yeah, Fields, not so much so much attention on Singleton, so much attention on Cam Coleman, so much attention on Jackson Arnold. Sam Turner had a good spring, and so he got a bunch of love as a true freshman. And so I don't think we focused on Horatio Fields much, but he is there's potential for Horatio Fields. I mean, even Malcolm Simmons gets talked about a lot because we saw him last year. I think Fields is flying under the radar. Fields could be really, if you put Fields on, I'm just off the top of my head. I mean, there are some recent Auburn rosters for sure. I could probably go back 6, 7, 8, 9 years that if I put Horatio Fields on some of these rosters, he might be the best receiver on the team. He just is not getting as much love because of Singleton and Cam and even what Malcolm can be. Fields has got a chance to be – he's good. He's pretty good. And he's probably not getting a lot of love because the other guys are getting the attention. But that's a talented guy. That's a guy that can play in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's pretty talented. Anybody else? That's the one that came to mind first.
The one that popped up for me, yeah.
All right, Steve Bradley, is Hugh Freeze going to be in more control with offense or play calling this year than in the past 2 years?
I don't know that's going to be different than last year. I mean, it changed from year 1 to 2, but I would think it just continues on that track going into this year, which is, he's going to be the primary play caller. Nix can have an opinion. Ken Austin can have an opinion. The way just a reminder, the way he kind of split up last year was different guys would sort of game plan and prepare for, maybe one guy sort of game plans and prepares for red zone. Maybe one guy sort of game plans and prepares for 3rd and longs. And so that's kind of their job. So they should go into the game, and maybe Ken Austin has put together some really nice packages that if we get in 3rd and long, here's some things we think. Or Derek Nix is like, hey, if we get in some red zone, here's some things we think can work. But in the end, on the game day, I mean, Freeze is where the buck stops, like, which is on game day.
Yeah.
Now, it's just a weird dynamic because there's plenty of times last year where when it came to the week of preparation, I know that Freeze was not always in all of the offensive meetings. So it's weird to be sort of where the buck stops on play calling and to have the mind he does and want to be more involved, which is what he said, but then not be in tune with every single little detail that's happening during the week in preparation and meetings. That's one of my biggest issues because I know that went on. And then you watch some of the execution. It's not rocket science sometimes on why things seem to break down. And that's what concerns me. Like, is Freeze going to be so tuned in during the week? He's going to be in the offensive meetings. There's nothing slipping through the cracks with him from an offensive preparation standpoint, so that when they get to Saturday and he wants to call plays or whatever, there is zero miscommunication. If he calls a play, it was prepared for, it was talked about. Like, there's not a situation where Freeze calls a play thinking it's going to be done a certain way, but there was actually some discussion that happened in a meeting during the week that he wasn't in about that play. And then next thing you know, it doesn't get executed quite, or there's an audible, but something happens. And then there's, why did it happen? Well, during the week, I talked to Ken Austin about it and we thought this would be good. Okay. Well, I wasn't aware of that. I thought that's the stuff that worries me, man. That's the stuff that worries me. We can
my fault, Rebecca. Barn Rebecca 98 is her username. Continue. Dylan Jordan.
Funny, Justin Clayton. It's a funny quote. It's a funny comment. It's funny. Where'd Cole go? We lose him? We'll just go on to this one. We dropped off. All right, we'll go into Dylan's and we'll see if he pops back. What's Dylan say? What would you need to hear coming out of the fall? There he is. What would you need to hear coming out of the fall to raise your expectations to 9-3 or 10-2? Is there anything that you could hear that you would go, all right, I've heard enough. I expect 9-3. That's now my expectation firmly. Is there anything that you haven't heard that you could hear to get there?
I don't know. I don't know if there's anything I could hear that would change my mind enough.
For me, it would be probably defense related. Like, if you're just there, because there's stuff we're not going to hear. There's stuff we're just going to have to find out like everybody else. We're just going to have to watch the game and we're going to have to see how the operation works. But if you're asking, like, could something be said or could we hear something that gives us confidence? I would probably go defense. Is there something that elevates my confidence in that group where I'm like, oh, I maybe misjudged this group. This group maybe's got more potential than I thought. Like, is there a lot more faith in the interior defensive line that I'm giving them credit for? Is there something that where you're like, okay, this defense might be pretty good. Now, I don't know that Auburn has to outscore people. That defense actually might be able to hold their ground. But I don't know. I don't know if there's nothing that would – I don't know if there's anything that would firmly say, all right, I now think they should go 9-3. I don't know. Here's an interesting question. Is there anything that would, if Auburn beat Baylor, or if how that game went, would you change your expectations on that one game? Like, if they looked a certain way and beat Baylor a certain way, would you go, okay, if they're capable of that, if that's what I'm seeing, like, let's say they go to Baylor and win 31-14. No, I'm not saying they would. Would you go, okay, that's pretty impressive. I now have to recalibrate a little bit. If that's what you're capable of doing game one, then you better, like, there's some games where I thought were iffy that I think you have to win based on what I just saw. And now that pushes me up a 1 or 2 on the win total.
I don't know, because I'm more worried about consistency, and beating Baylor it doesn't change anything about what I know. I think beating Baylor is almost like a prereq. Like, you need to get it done. You just need to get it done.
What if they don't?
If they don't, then I think it just puts so much pressure on everything else. That doesn't mean you can't go win games and have a good season. It just puts more pressure where you beat Baylor, it takes the pressure off a lot. Like I was saying, with the Washington game, with the Oregon game for Gus, it really gave a grace period to him, I think. Those were huge wins to open your season, and it set the trajectory for your season where you're going, okay, this has a chance. But as many Gus Malzahn teams did, they didn't live up to it. That's what you're trying to avoid with Hugh Freeze. You're hoping he's better than that. So I'm more worried about consistency after the fact.
Yeah. And I'm sort of leaning more with you in terms of the pressure of the Baylor game. I think I'm sort of leaning more with you in terms of the significance of that game, because then you've got 2 games at home you're going to win, but then aren't the first 2 league games Oklahoma A&M on the road?
Yeah.
So if you lose to Baylor and your first 2 league games are at Oklahoma, who's going to be better with a capable quarterback, and then at A&M, who's clearly going to be good, you're staring at you. Probably the betting odds would say you're going to be 2-3 with the 3 losses to the first 3 good teams you play, and you're just getting started in league play. The pressure would be, we'll just wait till we get there. But if you lose to Baylor, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M, you are going to have hot seat. Hot seat won't fully describe what will be going on. That will be an easy thing to say as Hugh Freeze is now on the hot seat. There will be not just fans upset. I think you start that way, and I think you have internal people going. I think you have internal people starting to go, what's the rest of our schedule? What could this look like? What could this turn into? Like, I think you do that and you start getting people going. It's almost like a baseball. It's almost like the starting pitcher gives up a few hits and starts to get knocked around, and you start to get the bullpen warm. That's the way. If they go 2-3 and that's how they start that year, I think the bullpen starts to get warm, and you go, what are our options here? Like, let's play this out. Like, I don't think the administration's sitting back going, doesn't matter. Let's just see how it ends at the end of the year. They could go 4-8. We'll just you start that way, and they're going, how bad could this get in the next month? It's just my opinion.
It's an interesting dynamic with Oklahoma, too. A lot of people are saying they're going to be much better, but I would argue that their offensive situation a year ago was worse than Auburn's.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, I think for sure. Yeah, I would agree.
And not even, again, I don't think all of that was on Arnold. I think there were some things that were on him, just like with Peyton's situation. But they get a new quarterback, and all of a sudden, everybody looks at Oklahoma and they go, oh, yeah, that's a contender. They're a contender. I'm not there with them. Like, they got to get some things fixed.
For sure, yeah. And even the FPI, I mean, FPI has them 10th in the league. I mean, they're for sure they're not a juggernaut all of a sudden. I mean, that's very much
better. They're 100% better. I can say that with full confidence. I think John Mateer is good.
Yeah.
I don't know how good he's going to be at Oklahoma. I think he should be. Because they did what Auburn did that first year with Freeze. They went to Service Academy offense. Now, they beat Alabama with that offense, which then makes you turn and go, all right, is Alabama as good as we think? How do you lose to that? Crazy. It's just crazy, man. I can't wait for the chaos. I'm ready for that part.
I hear you, Jeff, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. I know the guys at the next round, and we are a better listen for Auburn fans than the next round. What are we talking about? What's Rebecca say? What football game are you most looking forward to, and why?
It's hard to get past Baylor.
The last one? I don't know.
No, not me.
That means it's basketball season?
No. No, no.
Whatever. Yeah, for me, that would probably be my answer at this point.
That's not mine. It's Baylor. It's easily Baylor. I can't get past it.
Probably. I mean, first game, unique game on the road, interesting non-conference matchup. It's a lot of.
No, I mean,
It depends on how you look at it. By the way, are you talking about like looking forward to in terms of it's a super important game, or I think just watching Auburn play at Oklahoma is cool. It's a venue that I don't know that they've played at Oklahoma. I haven't looked it up. Like that'll be kind of cool to see. Just like the first time Auburn goes to Texas, that'll be kind of cool to see. So that'll be kind of fun, I think, to sort of see that just to watch Auburn play at a place like that. That'll be fun.
I love Auburn getting Georgia and Bama at home. Love those games. Always do. I expect them to be good football games and not blowouts. They usually are.
They have to be. They have to be. That goes back to the things. That goes back to the whole dynamic of you can't say in year 3 that the expectation or the hope is to do something you've already done. Year 1, you played toe-to-toe with Georgia and you had Bama beat and Jordan-Hare. Year 3 cannot be stepped backwards. Georgia and Bama come back and you look worse. That can't like that. I get they're good, but I mean that's just not early on. That's not the direction you want to go. And I would argue both those programs, I don't know what programs, but well, you could say programs. Do you think those two programs are better or worse than they were 2 years ago, or teams?
And
do you think Auburn's better? Like I would say that they're certainly not that much better than they were. If anything, they've taken a slight step back, and Auburn should be much better.
They're not better. They could be like on par with those teams, but I don't think they're better. I think on par is the most they could be with those teams.
Yeah.
Not better. I mean, maybe Ty Simpson, this guy that's been behind the guy that struggled really bad last year, is better.
Ty Simpson could be good. Never know.
He could be awesome. It begs the question why he never was able to beat out Jalen Milroe when he was struggling. That's the interesting part of this.
Yeah.
And then for Georgia, when Carson Beck was doing that, why Gunnar Stockton? I mean, he eventually got the job, but didn't Carson Beck go down? Or how am I remembering? Am I remembering
last
that
year?
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But Beck got hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why did it take that? I mean, if those guys are world beaters, why couldn't they win out jobs that were? That's my question with it. It doesn't mean they won't be good. They might be awesome.
Listen, you want to build some goodwill if you're Hugh Freeze? Beat Georgia. Beat Alabama, fine. Beat Georgia. Like, Auburn's beaten Alabama. Hugh Freeze could have beaten them, and Harsin could have beaten them. Like, the last 2 times they've been into Jordan-Hare Stadium. Malzahn beat Alabama. Beat Georgia.
I look at it I've looked at it since I've been doing this job, Justin. I look at it more from a recruiting standpoint than I ever have. You start getting wins against that program in recruiting, I think you are setting yourself up to get a win on the field. That's how it should be anyway. Auburn's been beating Alabama in recruiting. Auburn, the obstacle that Auburn has really not the only one it can't get over is beating Georgia for a guy that Georgia really wants to get. So I don't see that one happening, but I could see Alabama happening for sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You beat Georgia, something you haven't. What do you got? 17, right? It's the last time you beat Georgia.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Beat the dog crap out of them,
and then got beaten Atlanta. Then you lost 16, lost 15, lost 14, beat 13. You've beaten them 3 times in the last 14 years. Lost 9, lost 8, lost 7, lost 6. You got to go back to 2005, 10, 13, 17. Off the top of my head, I think that's correct.
I feel bad for Ron Roberts too, man. Ron Roberts had a great call on that final play that Brock Bowers scored on to put the nail in the coffin. Eugene Asante just didn't bracket it right. And then he calls out somebody on Twitter, "What do you mean I didn't bracket it?"
Georgia's just a program that Auburn fans hate right now. It's not a competitive. It's a rivalry. It's not a competitive one.
No, it certainly is not to them.
Win
They
that
don't
one.
look at it.
Win that one.
Yeah.
What's Justin's question?
I know this is better for the recruiting show, but are y'all worried about Hugh and staff skipping the final official visit weekend again? I've never been less worried about it than
Was that
this year.
past weekend? What's is
No,
it
no,
this
no.
coming weekend?
So as of right now, and we don't know for sure if they're going to do that. As of right now, there are no visits scheduled for the last open weekend before it goes dead in July. So June 20 something, 21st might be the date. It looks like what Auburn has done, and they did this last year, where they start the OVs early. They get through OV season. There's 1 week left where they could get some more guys in, but they've left it open. They're going to start taking off then for a dead period.
And that just to gain one extra.
You know, from covering Freeze, he likes to give his guys vacation time. He's big on that. He wants them to see their families. And a lot of people know that, and he's open about it. He doesn't care if people know. And I think they're setting up to do that again this year, where there's this extra week that's going to be open for business, but not for Auburn. They're going to shut it down probably. Last year, it worried me. It bothered me. This year, I look at it and I go, man, it doesn't matter. You got to win football games. I don't care about that last OV weekend. You got all the guys you wanted in. All the top targets have come in for OVs. They will have by that time.
Yeah.
Another big weekend this weekend. Get them all in. Make good impressions. Keep your foot on the gas in recruiting them. Don't expect to win these battles right now. Go play ball. Get it done on the field, and then you're going to win some of these. You're going to flip them.
Yeah, that was my question. If you feel like you've gotten everybody in that you need to get in, then I don't have a huge issue. It's one of those questions. I'll have an issue with it if the results don't follow. It's the same criticism of Hugh Freeze and the amount of golf he plays. It's fine if you win.
Sure.
Go win, it's fine. The second the results aren't happening, now it's a problem. So
yeah,
that's kind of how I would view that. Fine if you recruit well. If you land another top 10 class, that's fine.
Yeah,
but
and they did the last 2 years they've done this. They still land a top 10 class. So
yeah.
How important is it really? Like I said, get the guys that you want in. Doesn't matter when it happens. It's never mattered less to me when you get, because there's this argument. Oh, you want to get them in on the last weekend so they get the last visit high, all this. Man, I don't care. It's different. They can commit somewhere. It don't matter.
It's definitely changed a little bit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I can text you the offer.
No, it doesn't matter to me that much. Just go win on the field and you'll get it done. You'll get some big flips. You'll get a top 10 class, maybe even push top 5. If you can prove that part of your game, you've just about proven everything.
Jeff said to me, the biggest issue is Freeze's play calling. Can this be fixed on the fly? You probably have a pretty strong opinion on Freeze's play calling, one way or the other. Like I feel like there's nuance there. I think Freeze is a smart offense. He knows offense, and I think Freeze can get in his bag sometimes, the way Malzahn could get in his bag.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, dude, this dude's a genius. There's certainly some consistency. There's certainly times last year where you're like, wait, why'd you call that then there? There's that. There's definitely that. So, but I don't have a huge, my issue is less with his ability to call plays, and it's more, I feel like the attention to detail during the week to make sure that it's super efficient on Saturday. That's more of my issue.
I'm 100% there too. It's more about the fundamentals and the that part of it than the actual play caller. I think he's a really good play caller. Like you said, I think he's in his bag most of the time. I mean, play callers aren't going to be perfect. They're going to have moments that leave you scratching your head. But if you put him up against Gus, and I'm on Gus today, I don't know why. Gosh, he's leaps and bounds better, in my opinion. Gus was, I couldn't stand that offense, Justin. I could not stand to watch it for one more game. I couldn't stand to watch it.
It was pretty bad.
Harsin's offense wasn't bad, by the way. pretty good, pretty solid. If they'd had better talent, probably been really good. But I think Freeze is one of the better play callers Auburn's had in years. Dude, he's good. He knows how to dial it up. I've seen him set up plays, and then it's like I see it, but they're not catching on. They're about to throw a bomb on you, and then they do it, and it works. The A&M game, you saw it. I mean, Cam Coleman standing in the end zone by himself on an RPO play, just standing there, just throws a rainbow to him. Here, just make sure you catch this. You're standing in the end zone by yourself. That's a perfect play call.
Yeah.
The only one that comes to mind that was egregious was the Oklahoma play. I don't understand. I know why you did it. I even have a film room where I showed the Arkansas game the week before. This is the play. This same set, same personnel, same down and distance.
You talking about the pick six?
Yes. The week before, they ran it against Arkansas, and it was a touchdown to Keandre Lambert-Smith. It actually just played behind me. I just watched it a few minutes ago. And next week, they get in the same down and distance. They do the same thing. Well, Oklahoma's ready for it. They only rush 2 guys and drop everybody else into the slant lane and pick it off, take it to the house.
I give a lot of credit to Oklahoma. I mean, if you watch that play, dude,
yeah.
What in the world are you? I get it, but man, watch that play and imagine. You can't even imagine, by the way, you're Peyton Thorne. You really don't know. You don't know how to imagine being on the field, playing the position, helmet on your head, limited vision. Like you really can't. But the way that the dude faked the blitz and
dropped everybody.
Peyton's literally coached that if that guy blitzes, my eyes go here. He takes a step or two, so Peyton, his eyes go where they should go. And then the dude drops back. And when your vision, some of those guys get hidden and he just drops back exactly in the lane. I don't know, man. That's a hard one, man. I thought that guy played it perfectly.
Again, they did it the week before, scored on it. So Oklahoma said, well, we're not going to let them have that slant on this play because if they get in this set on 3rd and 6, which is what it was the week before, or 3rd and 4, we're going to have a plan for that. You're not going to throw the slant. What Auburn wishes is that Peyton would have taken the sack. It's hard to do. It's hard to ask. He's trying to make a play.
That is split second. And you got to think about Peyton's vision. He may not have even seen that guy. That guy's, if he's dropping, he could be on the other side of a defensive lineman rushing that I don't see him. And by the way, here's the other part. How do you look 2 places at once? If I'm coached that if that guy blitzes, I'm coached to immediately take my eyes and I'm looking at the receiver. I don't know if it was Malcolm, what, it doesn't matter. So how do I look at the receiver, but then also look to see, wait a minute, did the linebacker bail or not, or is he still blitzing? How do I look in 2 places at one time?
Oh, let me add to that. It was not a slant. It was an option route.
Yeah.
So he could have ran an out route, or he could have ran a stick, or he could have ran a slant.
Yeah, but I would think if the linebacker comes and you're the receiver, as soon as you see him blitzing, I'm going there because there's an open space. I don't know. That's just freaking. Sometimes they just make a good call and it gets you. I don't know.
You remember, and it was a great defensive call. I know why Auburn tried to run it, but in that situation, man, it's more important to run clock, to win field position.
You want him to run the ball there? Just run it.
Yeah, or what? Just play it safe. I think playing it safe is the better option because you've got the lead. Your defense has played well. Punt it, get them in a bad spot instead of trying to make this home run play. I don't know if that was the best idea. I get why they do it. I don't have an issue with the thought. But it's just you have to – that's what makes a great head coach, right? In those situations, you have to know what's the better idea here. I could try to take the top off. I could run a play that scored last week again, but this is not the time for it. It's not easy. I don't want to get paid to do it, but it can look like that if it goes wrong. And can't put yourself in too many situations for things to go wrong because they will.
Well, and listen, that's you could dive into some a discussion on that when it comes to critical plays. I mean, how do you simplify? You go back to the Georgia game, and there's room for Peyton to make an audible, and that they weren't on the same page, and there was an expected. Not to rehash all that, but how do you simplify the critical third down type stuff? How to, in pressure situations, how can Freeze and Jackson Arnold and the offense be on the same page? And let's say, listen, in these critical plays, let's make this simple. Let's eliminate some of the guesswork here. These are really important plays. Here's the play. It's a one-on-one or whatever. Let's not put too much on a third. I get it. Freeze's point would be like, I called the play. It was a good play. Yeah, that's kind of how he thinks. It's a good play. What are you talking about? It's a good play.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, in a perfect world, maybe.
Yeah.
But like maybe there's situations where you dumb it down and go, and maybe that happens. If you got Eric Singleton and you got Cam Coleman and you got Malcolm or you have Horatio Fields, maybe you've got some players where you can go 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. I'm going to try to make this really easy. I'm going to just isolate somebody, or I don't know. Maybe there's ways where you can just try to, because some of those turnovers I feel like happened because there was guesswork going on. And
with a guy like Arnold, you can almost use the Robbie Ashford method. Let's run student body left. Let's run Q power. That's a safe play, right? Something like that. Probably wouldn't have converted, but you buy time. You run another 30, 45 seconds off the clock. You punt it to them, pin them back. That's the game you're playing at that point. I think it's probably a better – look, hindsight, 2020. I get it. The play call makes sense in a way. It's more of a philosophy thing than a play call thing is what it is. I think he needs a little bit of a healthier understanding of Murphy's Law. Are you familiar with Murphy's Law?
Don't you tweet that at him?
Murphy's Law means everything that can go wrong. Here, I don't know. I'm not saying it right. Everything that is capable of going wrong, whatever, you know what Murphy's Law is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
Yeah. That's been Auburn football.
I know, but you can't put yourself in those situations if you think. That's why the first year seemed a little bit better because they had a healthy understanding of Murphy's Law. They said, we'll just do the Service Academy offense. We're not putting ourselves in this situation. I think there's a place for both. You can have a little bit of Service Academy offense in your offense that you run now for times like that.
Yeah.
Keep it safe.
What else? Any more questions you want to pop in there? You want to call it a day? Yes, it is 50-50. Hindsight's 50-50.
According to Da, yeah.
Anything else good? Any other questions you want to pop in there?
No, I think that's about it. I think we covered a lot of good things today. Healthy. It was healthy and needed it.
Yeah. We can chat more Thursday about
I may not be in, Justin. I think I will be at Auburn camp. They got a 7-on-7 camp going on during this time, I think. So we'll see.
Gotcha. Well, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, if you want to pop in, if you're out there and you want to sit down for a minute and take a breather, yeah, just let us know.
All right. I could probably do that. We'll see where we're at. 7-on-7 camps are the good ones. Those are the ones I've been waiting for. The elite camps have been a little so far, unless you want to get hyped up for future guys like 2028s and 27s. Hard to do.
Yeah, I saw Gus pushed one on Auburn's way.
Hey, that guy's a baller, by the way. Today's world, it's hard to really jump up and down about a commitment so far out from signing day. It just is. It really is. It's hard. But good for them. He's an in-state guy. They'll have a better chance at keeping that guy in the fold probably.
Nice. All right, well, let's roll. We'll come back. Appreciate the love for the show. Yeah, we'll come back Thursday. And we'll see what's going on. Maybe do abbreviated version. Have you pop in. We'll see what the news brings. You never know.
Sounds good.
All right.
See ya.